I'm presuming it's on the same.
Well, yeah, look, I direct people to check out the website from the independent hearing panel, the next step following the conclusion of the hearing, and it states that the council, and I'm assuming they put this in brackets to avoid any doubt, that the council, the governing body, will consider the panel's recommendations. And I think that they've got that in brackets in order to avoid any doubt about who will be making those decisions.
Indeed, and that's well understood, done well across that. Councillor Fletcher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's really important that there is a high level of trust between elected members and staff as we enter what will be a really important period in the shaping of Auckland. And what is coming through, and this is in no way disrespectful, but there has been perhaps the perception of a predetermination by staff as to the process and being managed. Therefore, I think it is important that there is clarity around that, and I would like to move that the report from staff be reported to the governing body of the Auckland Council.
Happy to second that.
Oh, that's fine. Good. So that's, hang on, better just before I say that's fine. So which, just to make sure we're all talking about the same thing, Councillor Fletcher, so this is, you're moving that the report of today, that the meeting for today?
No, Madam Chair, I'm accepting the staff's requirement for time to absorb and to prepare for reporting to Council, but I am suggesting, I'm moving, and it's seconded by Councillor Lee, that the briefing come to the governing body and all other meetings be those of the governing body.
Councillor, it's not appropriate for us to accept that recommendation at this time. There's no report nor background to that. I'd like us to deal with that. We can have that discussion at the governing body, and I know the Mayor will be very keen to have this discussion. But
Madam Chair, and I don't wish to be vexatious, I am basing that on the statute and on the reports, and also as someone who has participated in this discussion with the expectation that it would come to the governing body.
So, Councillor,
I don't believe that requires
a report.
Clearly. Yeah, that otherwise suggests that there is predetermination by staff in terms of managing this process.
Councillor, you're not hearing me. The final decisions will be made by the governing body. Let's be very clear about that. It's the process leading up to that that we just need to get clarity on. It is envisaged and has always been envisaged that the final decisions will be made by the governing body. No one is saying any different. We're becoming very, very circular here.
Madam Chair.
Councillor, we just need to take a deep breath and make sure that we've got all the facts in front of us. Because the final decision will be taken by the governing body, I'd very much like the Mayor to be present for this discussion, as the decision on process has been very much guided by his wishes.
So, Madam Chair, you're ruling out of order my motion.
Well, I think it's superfluous, with the greatest of respect to Councillor Fletcher. The final decisions will be made by the governing body. No one is making any argument about that. It's the process prior to the decisions by the governing body that we just need to get clear on. Am I correct, Mr. Chief Executive? You might like to bring some light, shed some light on this.
I can confirm, Madam Chair, the staff have not predetermined whether it's the Auckland Development Committee or the governing body or a combination of those two bodies. We fully understand that the governing body makes the final decisions on accepting the IHP recommendations. It's as simple as that.
So, Madam Chair, does that not imply that the power does reside within this committee, which was delegated to have the work of the unitary plan until such time as the independent hearing panel reported back? I would have thought that the power does reside in this committee today to make such a recommendation.
No, Councillor, it would require you know, you would need to show that this is an extraordinary item where there's urgency involved. There's no urgency involved in this. We have time to make this decision in a rational way with the full understanding of the legal implications and the wider implications of the way that we sit between the 10th and possibly the 18th. I don't see that there's a rush today. It doesn't necessitate an urgent decision, and I think we can take a deep breath and actually take some guidance on this and do it properly. We don't need to make decisions on the hoof. So, Councillor, I've got Councillor Wood, Councillor Lee, Councillor Casey, Councillor Quicks, Councillor Brewer. If it's in relation to this discussion, we'll have that later. Is it on any other issues? Councillor Darby, was this on you're on the list?
Just
Did you have
on the
another?
report, Chair, we have received some information today, so can I move the receipt of the report, the tabled documents and the presentations? Do I have a second?
Oh, no, we don't even need to.
So this
to do
does go
that.
to the minutes automatically without being received?
It does.
Okay, that's good
Fine.
then.
Thank you, Councillor Darby. Anyone on any separate issues? We will come back to the process discussion. Councillor Casey.
Right, on the 22nd of July, the golden rod comes into somebody's possession, and for 5 days it will be in somebody's possession. What I want to know is what security measures are being taken with regard to it, so that I don't open the Herald and find it all there.
Question.
So we have we are taking steps to really ensure that you won't open the Herald. So it's actually received by Stephen on Friday, and it will be locked away over the evening, and I will be the only one who can access it on the Saturday morning, where we then take it down to one floor of the council building, which has been, I suppose, secure as much as you can secure an open plan thing. We've only allowed a limited number of staff to come into the building over the weekend, which has concerned many people who have inputted into the unitary plan process, because as you're aware, it's been a cast of hundreds rather than tens, but we have limited it to a very small number compared to the number that's been involved. They've all had to sign confidentiality agreements. They will not be able to print off anything. They are not going to be able to email anything. We've set up the IT system, so while that they can read the recommendations on a screen, they cannot copy them, they can't print them, they can't email them. We're not going so far as to pat them down as they leave the building, but we are taking this really seriously, because we know how important it is that you are the first people to hear about the recommendations and brief them. So, and part of this is also about protecting staff. The smaller number that we have involved in that process, the more that we can make sure that they are also protected from any, perception that they might be providing information to the wrong parties.
So it's almost an absolute guarantee that we will get the information first.
Yeah. Thank you. Indeed, which would be fantastic if it works that way. Okay, that might be the end of the questions. Councillor Lee.
Yes, I think the meeting this afternoon and all the presentations and participants have underscored how important and legally sensitive this matter is, the unitary plan. And so I agree with the other councillors who believe that this must be dealt with by the Auckland Council in full session. I respectfully disagree with your comments about we've got plenty of time to make up our minds. I don't think so. Time is very short indeed, and that's all a part of the process. It's a very speeded up process. And so, Madam Chair, I disagree with you ruling Councillor Fletcher and my motion out of order, but I would ask you to give this serious consideration. The last thing this council needs, with the eyes of Auckland upon it, is a procedural row over whether a committee or the full governing body is the part of the council that deals with the unitary plan. It must be the governing body in full session and not the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. We hear you. I think we've reached the end of the, if it's on this issue, Councillor Brewer? No,
Well, Madam Chair, I just wanted to,
Councillor
it
Brewer?
is on this
No,
issue.
Councillor
You
Brewer.
called out my name before as a speaker. So
And-
I'd like to
and
move,
and-
Madam Chair, because
and-
you asked us
no.
that we take a deep breath and we won't make a
Councillors,
decision today.
and
Well, I move that decisions
very,
over the
very
delegations of the
clear.
unitary plan
I'm
decision-making between the 10th and 18th of August be tabled and discussed at the
Councillor.
governing body on the 28th of July. That gives us breathing time as you've asked for, and that also gives us an opportunity as you've promised with the Mayor.
Madam Chair, I second
And so
that.
let's
Councillors, we're
kick that
doubling-
decision as a formal item
we're
on the
doubling
GB.
up.
No, we're not doubling up because you haven't tabled it, I'm tabling it. You've decided, but I'm tabling it for discussion. Because, Madam Chair, you say that the final decisions will of course be made by the governing body, just as we ratify the long-term plan in 15 seconds by the governing body, but the real discussion and the real decisions will be made
Yeah. So
at
Councillor-
committee is what you're
Right.
proposing.
Deep breath again. We're just, what I was trying to say, and you didn't give me a chance to speak, the point I've been making before is that this can come to the governing body for the decision of the governing body with the appropriate legal advice and the wider issues well considered. We don't need to move that, it will happen. So.
You've ruled it out of order.
Well, it's not out of order. We've made the decision that that's going to happen. There's no requirement. We have all the staff necessary in this room who've already agreed, and we
So
made
we will
that
decide the delegations
Made that-
on the 28th of July.
that quite clear about half an hour ago. Rest assured, that is exactly the process. I'd like to thank everyone for being present at the meeting.
Madam Chair, just before you do,
Yes.
just following up on, and to reinforce this point that's been made already. Again, reading from the Independent Unitary Hearings Panel.
Yeah, but councillor, we've all read this. We're
Yeah,
all clear. You are
they put-
opening
well,
up.
I don't know
you
if
are
we can-
opening up the
well,
discussion
Madam Chair,
again, and I'm
I'm not
seeing
sure.
people are getting ready to leave. Councillor, we've made the decision. I'm going to close the meeting. We all know where we've got to. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we will see the further discussion at the governing body. Thank you.